Hi everyone, Jeff Lee here, Program Manager of TMS that Connects, back once again with Jessica Van, founder and CEO of Maven Recruiting. Today, we're talking about current work trends. Starting off, Jessica, we're a couple years removed from the COVID pandemic now. What lasting impacts or changes do you see in the recruiting and hiring process, or just in the workplace itself?
It's an interesting question, Jeff, because I think if you were to have asked me this question a year ago, I would have answered it very differently. We're talking in late 2025. And I think that for the most part, at this time, a lot of what we saw has somewhat been reversed. So there were a good number of years there where it seemed like the model was really either remote or hybrid, and hybrid being something like 2 days a week on site. That said, we've seen a pretty strong trend line to suggest that that's no longer the standard. So most of our clients at this point are, anywhere from 3 to 4 days on site. And if they're not already 4 days on site, they're pushing for that, or they're figuring out how to roll that out and how to encourage that once again. So I think that COVID, I think that was probably the most significant, was just kind of the incredible flexibility and kind of mass remote model that took shape during that time. But as I said, I think that's largely gone away. There are a couple of things though that are, I think, enduring, and one of those is we've developed sort of this reliance and facility around Zoom conversations. You and I are talking over Zoom. I mean, it's just sort of become the format of how we engage, and so I think that that's definitely here to stay, and so I don't see that reversing. I think that in pre-COVID times, there might have been like a phone interview was pretty customary for as an initial screen, and that's pretty much been usurped completely by a Zoom meeting instead. So it seems like people really have embraced Zoom as a new and consistent and enduring way of interacting.
Right. Well, it does sound like, for the most part, what you're hearing is that the San Francisco workplace is kind of switching back from the more hybrid remote work model to more of like a full-time in office, at least like a 4 day
Hmm.
minimum.
Hmm.
On the topic of Zoom, do you think anything's kind of changed with like online like Zoom etiquette? I know Zoom, we've kind of added it just to the roster of tools that we use now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's changed, but I think there's definitely some best practices. There's definitely some do's and don'ts. So, first and foremost, I think just, arriving punctually, right? So being in the waiting room,
Mhm.
being a couple of minutes early as opposed to a
Mhm.
couple of minutes late. That same thing as if you were interviewing, right? It's
Mhm.
the same type of thing. Making sure that you have a professional background. So if it's not a actual background, then having something that's staged or whatever is okay. But just make sure that it's something, and be very intentional about what people are seeing behind you. Because if they're seeing chaos and a slovenly room and an unmade bed, it's not a good look,
Yeah.
right? And I say these things and it sounds a little silly, but these are actual examples of things that have happened that have unfortunately compromised people. Dress for an actual meeting, whether you're in person or not. I think it's important that you have one, it's like you're wearing the armor, right? You're
Mhm.
of professionalism, and there is a whole persona that you step into when you step into your professional attire. So I encourage people to do that. Also, you just never know. Like you might have to suddenly jump up and get the door, and if you have not dressed from the waist down,
Mhm.
that's embarrassing. Um, so that's a good recommendation. We talked about no clutter. I'm a big fan of ring lighting. Having good lighting is really important, right? So it's a simple fix. It's an Amazon purchase for a few bucks, but it makes a huge difference in terms of how you show up and just your alertness. Um, I would say make sure you've removed any kind of disruptions. So if you've got animals barking in the background or things that are going to be distracting, if you know that your gardener is coming and they typically mow the lawn at that time, right? I would avoid things like that.
Yep. I think we've heard many of these before, but it's always good to just reiterate these best practices and make sure that we're adhering it and we're kind of practicing
Yeah.
what we preach, right?
Actually, one more thing, Jeff.
Okay.
This is a big one, and this is not so much about interviewing over Zoom, but this is
Mhm.
about if you're in a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
And we've implemented this as a standard as well for our own internal meetings, is if you're in a meeting, it should be cameras on. And I think it can be a very uncomfortable experience if
Mhm.
some people are on camera, some people aren't. I think it immediately prompts people to think, is this person even there? Have they just logged in and there's some AI bot that's standing in for them? Or, are they completely disengaged? So I do think from an etiquette perspective, if everyone else is on camera, then you should be as well.
Switching gears a little bit, at the time we're talking right now, the AI industry is booming. It's rapidly growing in the Bay Area. What trends about AI have you noticed that the local job seeker should be aware of, and what should they kind of expect?
Well, I think that's everybody's big fear, right? Is that
Mhm.
their jobs are being cannibalized or subsumed by AI.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't think I don't think we're quite there,
Okay.
but I do think that there are certain positions and certain
Mhm.
roles that are more AI proof than others,
Mhm.
right? And it's funny, I recently came across an article talking about how, the next generation of millionaires are going to be basically all of the trades, right? People that
Yep.
do things like electricians, plumbing,
Mhm.
roofers,
Mhm.
contractors, people
Mhm.
that create things that AI is not capable of replicating or doing.
Mhm.
So I'm not suggesting that everybody become, somebody in the trades, but I am suggesting that you think about yourself and your value and how you can position yourself to be quote unquote AI proof or at
Mhm.
least more AI proof. So what does that look like? I mean, I'll speak to our expertise, which is in the executive assistant realm. There's still a ton that AI cannot deliver around when it comes to effectively supporting a business, an executive, supporting operations, driving efficiency, really intuiting what a person, an executive needs, which is what EAs do, right? And
Mhm.
so I think that going back to our earlier point about being in office, there are some real value adds to being present. And as much as people are concerned about being replaced by I think they should also be simultaneously, open to and excited about going back to the office because that's what's going to allow them to demonstrate their value and be the presence that AI can't be. Does that make sense? So it's
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
a double-edged sword. Like you can't have it both ways. You can't be worried about AI eating your job and also not be willing to be in person and
Yeah.
cultivate the kind of relationships and insights that only a human being can do.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of meeting those face-to-face interactions whenever you can, right? It's being cameras on during the Zoom meetings, things like that,
Exactly. And
where
it's the quick walk and talks. It's the,
Mhm.
hey, let me grab you for a few minutes. You have a minute to powwow about this. It's things like that that are really, really, really essential. And then there's the reality of also looking at AI as a complementary tool and as a way of enhancing your efficiency. And so if AI can help you save time on research, if AI can help you develop a slide deck quicker or put together a summary faster or plan a trip faster. And that also frees you up to be more intentional or present or thoughtful about the things that AI can't do. It doesn't need to be the Black Mirror, fearful thing that I think oftentimes people want to jump to. It can also be, how can I embrace this? How, it's not going away. So how can I embrace it? And how can I leverage it as part of my toolkit instead of seeing it as a threat?
Thanks for that, Jessica. Next time, we'll be continuing the conversation with some tips and tricks to help you on your own job search.